boy. Error occurred. Wait a minute to try again. I'm telling you, I'm having one of those. All righty, we are live. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. This is Jamie Green from the Let's Talk Destiny podcast. And I'm excited to be back with you tonight in spite of everything that's going on, the cloudiness outside, the storm that's coming, the drama that's going on in life in general. I'm just grateful to be here, and I'm excited to have someone that I really consider a friend because I have shared with her some of my most intimate personal issues, and she has that calming, healing energy about herself. And I enjoy the times that we do get to talk. And tonight, I want to welcome to the platform Megan Rodriguez.
Yes.
Um, she is the founder and host of a Flow Rising podcast. And I've been honored to be a guest on her podcast as well. And as you know, Megan, this month I've shared with you that we are talking about the mother and son relationship. I wanted
Yeah.
to bring to talk about you and your son. So welcome to the platform.
Thank you. I'm always excited to be on this end. It's been a while. I've taken a short hiatus from my podcast, just needed a break from recording. Still putting out episodes. It's always nice when I'm like, I have recorded stuff, but I haven't done this in a while. So I'm like, it's nice to actually be getting back into having conversations. So thanks for having me on the show. It's nice to be here tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you. So, as I said, this month, I'm talking about the mother and son relationship because I have two sons and five sons. There's no girls anywhere in the picture. And a couple of times when I found out a baby was on the way, I said, if it's a boy, send it back. But they didn't send it back, so they're still here. And so I've come to love all of them, all of my boys. And so sons have a special place in my heart. And when I thought about getting some mothers together this month to talk about the mother-son dynamic, the joys and the pain, you came to my mind. And so I'm so grateful that you were able to be here with me tonight. So before we get into asking a lot of questions or whatever, tell us a little bit about your son. How old is he? What are the things you do?
Well, I say that I am blessed that my son picked me to be his mom because I often take very little credit for the absolutely amazing, amazing human being he is. He is 15. Let's see, what are the things? He started to drive. Okay, that's uh, he's doing great. Yep, started to drive. He is finishing up ninth grade, so we only 3 more years left, and then grown man. But no, he does all kinds of stuff. He's in honors classes at school. He's part of a leadership academy. This summer, he's going to go travel to Panama with schools, so he gets 8 days in Panama. He just recently got accepted to our local city council, has a youth council, and he just got accepted, and so he gets inaugurated into that at the end of the month. Super smart kid, super amazing. Like, I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, my kid's amazing," and I'm like, "No, my kid's one of those humans that you meet him and just kind of go, that's a special human." Like like I say, he picked me. Is how I look at it because he really is a great human being to have as my son.
That's awesome. So, I talk to a lot of mothers, and we're like, oh, I'm glad I have a son because it's all drama than dealing with these girls and the hormones and all that stuff. How did you feel when you found out you were having a son?
Well, and first off, I never actually planned on being a mother. Like that was not as you know, I was in a very abusive relationship with my ex, his father, and it was not like, nope, not going to be a mother. universe, God had a very different plan for me. When I found out I was having a boy, I was relieved, really, because I have a very long history of women in my family have fakey on the surface look good relationships, but really terrible relationships with mothers and daughters in my family that just I don't even have a relationship with my mother. So didn't really want a girl. But I was elated to have a healthy child, but really having a boy was if I was going to have anything, I was like, nope, it's going to be a boy. And I kind of knew from the beginning. I was like, nope, we're having a boy. That's how I kind of felt from the moment I knew I was pregnant. So yeah.
So your son is 15 now and, getting his license and, going, getting ready to fly. How do you, down through the years, how have you navigated the balance between being his mom and being his friend?
So I had one rule. This is one of those maybe too much information, but I had a C-section. So we were in the hospital for a few days afterwards. There's some complications. And I remember being by myself in the room with him. And I looked at him and I said, look, when you're ready, I'm ready. We're going to do this. It's you, it's me. I knew I was kind of going to be that single parent, even though his father was around. I was very much the single mom type, just didn't have support. And I just sort of made in my head, like I can distinctly remember the day he was like, no more songs tonight, mom. And he was 3. And I'm like, I don't get to sing to you anymore. I love to sing. And then he's like, no, I'm going to read the books. No more books. And he was 4. And it
Wow.
just, but I remember telling myself, if he is saying to me, I don't want that. Okay. That hurts, mom. I'm going to go cry in the bathroom. But at the same time, it was more like, I always in my brain from the moment I knew I was having a child was like, my goal in life is to raise a highly functioning human being that when he's ready for whatever, that he has the skills, that he has the confidence, that he just is ready in life and excited about life. And so, yeah, it was, but it was never easy. Like, oh, I don't get to do that anymore. Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it's funny because I was thinking the other day about my boys and the different paths that their lives have taken. But I think back to, I've shared this with so many mothers down the years, how important it is for us to pay attention to what they're saying at an early age, what their passion is at an early age, what it is that they say they like and then they don't like it.
Yep.
Don't try to shove what you want for them down their throat. Um, so I think that is great what you said that you listened to him, even though you felt like, okay, me reading or singing to you every night is fantastic. We're bonding or whatever. And for a moment, it might have been bonding, but then he was like, okay, that's cute, mom, but now I want to do something else. And so
Yeah.
it's important real early because it kind of helps you start for one accepting who they are without feel bad about who they are because it starts a lot earlier than what we realize. Um, and so we especially with our boys, we want them to grow up and be strong, independent men. Uh, excuse me, strong parts of our society. But then we don't. We trying to clip their wings and tell them, you're going to fly when I want you to fly. So I think that is fantastic. Now, do you think that your relationship with your son, have there been any expectations like from your culture or your society or religious expectations that have influenced your relationship with your son? Or you just kind of like a free relationship, like just whatever you at the moment, that's what we're going to do?
Yeah, I mean, I intentionally raised him outside of religion just because part of my childhood abuse is from religion. But I always raised him in the this was my other thing with him. If you have questions, we're going to find the answers. So he's super curious. So he has studied a lot of mythologies and found like faith and spirituality in his own. So I never really had influence from that. Unfortunately, the influences that we had, and I say unfortunately because they happened young and they're gone now, but my family, who is, again, my abusers, and I wasn't ready to let them go, which I have at this point in our life, and then his father. So there was control as far as the situation that we were in, but really for us, what it really helped us do was, unbeknownst to me, I got it right, because it was like, I'm just going to make a safe space. Well, by creating and being his safe space inside of that situation, we got to have a special bond with each other that, again, if he asks a question, I answer it. And a lot of people are like, oh, you shouldn't tell a kid that young that. And I'm like, he's asking. Like, why wouldn't I just? So there wasn't really any influences like church, or, I mean, there's always societal influences. Just, we can't get away from those. But he and I we're very curious humans. And so we just sort of allowed that curiosity to kind of dictate what I taught him, or what came up, or what we experienced. Really more like he wanted to know something, so we kind of travel down the path together in a lot of ways.
I feel like, if they're asking, then they're old enough to know. Now, the way I answer it may change based on the age, but if they're asking a question, then why wouldn't I answer the question? I grew up,
Yeah.
that generation, and in that cultural background, and in that religious background, that children don't ask questions. Children just do what they're told. Children don't speak unless you're spoken to. Children just quiet and do, let me drag you through life, and you don't say anything. And I saw when I had children, you said something very important about your son being able to come to you and talk to you and ask you questions. And that's what I wanted with my sons. I remember early on, I've had other people say, you are too close to those boys, you're making babies out of them. Then, they're going to be gay, which was like one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Because like, how am I going to make you be gay just because I'm mothering you? That's stupid. Right. So I always wanted my sons to know that they could come to me, even if what they wanted to talk about was difficult. And,
Yep.
and I might have to say, okay, give me a minute. But I always wanted them to feel like they could come to me. Now, what advice would you give other mothers who want to foster that strong bond and unique bond with their sons?
You cannot overmother them. Like you said earlier, we're raising strong men. What kind of man do you want? Do you want the man who sits around and doesn't do anything because he's used to being taken care of?
Right, right, right.
Like, chores have never been optional in our house. And I always tell him, it's not because I need you to work for me, because that's how I felt as a kid. I'm like, I'm doing this so when you have your own place, doing the dishes is just something you're used to. Taking a shower is something you're used to. Doing the laundry is no big deal. These are life things, not man-woman things.
Right,
And I'm
right,
not
right.
gonna I've taught him to cook. He has found a love of cooking and baking. I said, these are skills. And I think that when you're raising boys, we forget, especially like you said, early on, they're actually ready sooner than we want them to be.
Yes.
And because there are boys, someone once told me this is something that is super important to mothers who have sons. Having a son is the longest breakup you'll ever have in your life. You are slowly over 18 years being broken up, like just a boyfriend, like they are. And someone said that to me when he was really, really little. And I went, oh no, this is going to be terrible. And they went, but what's great about it is you're not breaking up, because on the other side, there's a man that you get to be best friends with if you do it right.
Yes.
And I went, okay, goals. But they break your heart. And I don't know if girls do it any different. Moms and daughters are different, but that's really, teach them. Let them do things. They are capable. You don't have to always cook or always clean or do the mom things. Let them participate.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because, you think about it, like, you are raising somebody's future boyfriend, somebody's future husband, somebody. And so, like, what in the world are you going to turn over to into society for a woman to even be attracted to? Like
Yep.
somebody, like you say, sits in one spot all day and just gives orders, or like can't even wash their clothes, can't do anything. What happens when you're not there? So you have to prepare that. That's a part of our job. You know, we nurture them, we carry them for 9 months, or in my case, it was more like 2 years, it seemed like. Um, carry them in your womb and you nurture them. Everything you eat and drink affects them. What you inhale affects them. And then when they're born, you still are their source of nourishment. They like depend on you for everything. And so then how is it that they get to a certain age and you're supposed to say, okay, that's it. I'm not doing anything else for you. Don't talk to me. Don't look at me. Don't come to me for nothing. Like that is ridiculous. And so
Yep.
I feel like the bond between the mother and the son, and like you said, I don't know about the daughters because I didn't have any daughters. I had daughters of my heart, but I didn't give birth to any daughters. I didn't raise any daughters, so I don't know anything about that. But I know that there is a uniquely divine bond between a mother and a son because your son will come to your defense.
Yep.
I know with my grandsons, when I had communication with them, I was around them all the time. There was one in particular that, every 10 minutes, you okay, Nana? You need anything, Nana? If somebody else would say something, leave Nana alone. He was my defender. And so I just smiled because I'm like, that's what he was trained to do. That's what is a part of him. That's his personality. He wasn't forced to do that. So let me ask you a question. How do you prioritize self-care and maintain your own identity while nurturing your relationship with your son down through the years? How did you do
I didn't. I'll be honest. Part of it was
that?
because of the relationship I had with his father, that self care was just not an option. I've been out of that relationship for 5 years, and I still struggle with it. But what I can say, it's funny, you can always give advice more than you actually are the things that you're like, oh, I did this thing. No, what I can say is in a lot of ways, you know, it, just what you said about your grandson. They actually really want to help, but they're not, and I think this is where women get it wrong. They're not just going to see the dishes and do the dishes. And I think self-care with boys comes into setting expectations. After dinner you're going to do the dishes, and when I ask you, could you do it in the next 10 minutes? That's another thing. It's never immediate. It's always, but I asking him to do things if I'm tired and I'm like, I
Mm.
just really need some support in the kitchen tonight. I don't really need you to do anything. Maybe get stuff out of the fridge, but just help me get through dinner. If you want to help, you can help. But I just really need your energy right now. I think with boys that's the most important thing is learning that my self-care comes in a lot of ways from like, I need you to do a thing so I don't have to. And we often fail with our own husbands because they weren't raised by us, and that's, again, we're raising somebody else's husband. And
Yeah,
I often tell my son, I'm like, so I'm asking you to do this, but next time you see it, you could just do the thing. We're not there yet, but he's getting, again, there are things where he's like, oh, this is the time when I do this because the expectation's been set. And I think that's how I'm learning, oh wait, I don't have to do the thing, so I
I
can go do something else. Yeah.
exactly. That's a wonderful answer because I know sometimes like I just don't feel good. Like, like just don't feel like it. Even when my sons were younger, I was like, I'm not feeling well, whatever is going on. And that kitchen needs to be cleaned up, the trash needs to be taken out, whatever. And so to watch them do it, and then the times when they would do it without me even mentioning it, that is equal to self care because it's giving me an opportunity to go relax, to go be quiet, to go meditate, or just lay down, whatever it is I need to do. So that's a great answer. Do you feel like your relationship with your son is strengthening as he's getting older? Do you have any sense of him feeling like he's beginning to pull away from you as he matures?
Um, hmm. Yes, but only in the sense that every child at this age does. Like, I don't feel like there's undue strain between him and me specifically. Um, you know, him wanting to have social interactions with his friends more than mom and dad. Hey, uh, okay. As long as you don't scream and yell when I ask you to do something, he's never disrespectful. Like I said, I also set the expectation early on. If I'm going to ask you to do something, I'm not going to walk in and see that you're playing a video game and just be like, turn it off. Let's go. I'm done. I need you now. It's like, oh, in the next 10 minutes, 10 minutes, is that a reasonable time frame for you to stop, finish what you're doing, and then come help me? Or stop, finish what you're doing, and come engage? So, I mean, pulling away, but only, again, he's 15. He's almost got his own car. He's almost getting his. So I don't really feel like it's something like he doesn't want me around,
Yeah.
but he doesn't want me around because I'm mom. I'm not girlfriend material. That's actually biological. He should want his peers more than mom at this point. And I feel like that actually is a good thing that he doesn't want to cling to me. He really is like, I'm here. I still respect mom. I still want a relationship, but yeah, I don't want it as much as I did 5 years ago.
Because for me, as my sons got to that age, and they started, wanting to hang out with their friends, wanting, and to me, it was like I felt like I did something good, something right, because he's sure enough that he can be out of my sight and still feel like he's going to be okay. That I don't have to be in his space all the time for him to feel safe. And I think that is extremely important. How have you
Yeah.
navigated um, the challenges or the changes that have occurred um, in your relationship so that you make sure that your son feels understood and supported? I grew up in a situation where, as I said earlier, it wasn't like you could ask questions because it was seen as disrespectful. Uh, excuse me. So there were a lot of times I did not feel understood or even seen, right?
Mhm.
Um, Determined that when I had children that I would not do that to them.
Yeah.
How do you feel that you make sure that your son feels understood and that he always has your support, even when you disagree with him? He knows that you're there for him. How do you do that?
Um, in the last couple years, I've really started doing something, especially when he comes to me and says, "Mom, I want to tell you something." The next thing out of my mouth is, "Do you need advice or do you need me to listen?" Because I've learned mom wants to turn on and be like, "Yeah, okay, he's talking. I've got advice. I can tell you what to do." He just wants to be like, "Are you still a safe space that I could share some challenging things with you?" I didn't get this right every time. Like, this has been actually a learning lesson to be like, "Okay, is this a listening?" Um, when he needs advice, I give it. Otherwise, I just, listen and just really listen. And I have to, oh, okay, and listen and with the emotion that not that he's expecting, but if he's telling me something serious, that I'm serious and I take it seriously. Whether I see it as serious or not, it's serious to him. And so I respect him and how he's coming to me. But the other thing that is huge is I apologize. When I get it wrong,
I love
I
that.
make sure before I go to bed to be like, I realized I didn't, you wanted me to listen and I didn't. And I'm sorry. And I will keep working on that. And, or, oh, I really stepped in it today with you. And letting him know that I I messed up and I'm sorry. I'm human, but I'm not, like you said, we were raised where it was seen and not heard. And if you messed up,
That's
the parent was never at fault. You were the child. And I never wanted my kid to feel that way.
I love that. I love that answer. Can you describe any specific early experience or interaction that you feel solidified the relationship between you and your son?
Um, early on. Uh, I mean, I would honestly it's so funny because I'm just like, I always say for me, like 2 and 3 were my favorite ages with him. And it when he was young, it was I intentionally stopped and played with him. Moms don't do this as well as dads. I intentionally engaged with him the way that like not everything was a lesson, not everything was a chore, not everything was doing something, that we played. Um, and even throughout his childhood, we played games together. I didn't just intentionally let him win. In fact, for years, he hated playing board games because I wouldn't let him win. Now he kicks my butt all the time. But learning to, and I think that that really for us was learning that you can ask questions and get answers was one of it, but we can play together. It's not all serious all the time, that we can actually enjoy laughing and having a really good time together. And that started early on, the playing and the enjoying space with him. Yeah, that was pretty early.
Love that. Because again, we don't want to be as moms. We don't want our sons to only see us as disciplinarians. We don't want them to always see us as every time there's something wrong, she's gonna be yeah, 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 just like fussing at me all the time. So sometimes I learn from personal experience that we go to the extreme one way or the other. Like because I grew up with that, you don't have an opinion, you don't have a voice, you don't have nothing but what I tell you you have. When I had my children, I just was like, they call it the helicopter mom, I think. Like they couldn't breathe without me being right there. Like
Yep.
when they inhale, I exhale. When I exhale, they inhale so close. Like I didn't want them to go to anybody's house. I didn't
Yep.
want if they had friends, they had to come to my house where I could see them. It was
Yeah.
so bad, Megan, that when they would go visit my parents' house, I would be calling over there like every half hour checking on them, right? I remember I remember my mother saying to me one time, listen, if you call over here one more time to check on this boy, you need to just come and get him. Oh my God, that hurt my feelings. Like, and then, but I thought about it, I'm like, oh my God, just let him enjoy time with his grandparents. What are you doing? But
Yep.
I just didn't want anything to happen to them. And then when
Yep.
they got to the age where they started wanting to go out with their friends, hang out in the street a little bit, I need to know where you are, who's there, who, what is an adult there, what time are you coming back? And even right now, my youngest son is 31, and I get an attitude with him. Like if he goes somewhere and I don't know where, he's like, "Oh my God, mom, I don't have to tell you everywhere I go." Okay, but okay, you're at the age you don't have to tell me everywhere you go, but you give me an idea of like where you are and who you're with. And he's like, "Oh, for God's sake, if you stop watching Investigation Discovery Channel all the time, you will be stressing me out every time I walk
Yeah.
out the door." But
Yeah.
it's the time we're living in is dangerous. But I have to admit, I'm still very force myself to just be like, and when he says, "Okay, mom, I'll see you later," I have to force myself not to say, "Where you going?" I
Going.
just
Yeah.
okay, then see you later, but I'm still like, ugh.
I
So
think yeah. It's easy to do. It's easy to do.
those
Yeah.
crimes will have you paranoid. I'm like, every time I see somebody in a white van, I'm like thinking, oh my God, I wonder if
Oh
they
yeah.
got wrapped up in a I wonder if those are sex traffickers or what? What the heck?
Yep.
So yeah, it's challenging, and I think, like we've said a couple of times, I don't know what it's like to mother daughters, but I know what sons is to me it's difficult because of society and what they expect from them. And if your child is anything less than or different from what society has painted their brush, painted them as to be. You just kind of feel like always have to be there to protect them. Like if they have
Yeah.
any is whether it's learning or if they're questioning sexuality or just anything, you just feel like I need to be around them 24/7 because it'll hurt my baby, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I've learned that, mom can't be everywhere doing everything. So
Yep. Not at all. Not
I
at
love
all.
and one of the things I've learned from watching you and watching your podcast is about when you're a mom who has lived through abuse, such as you have and such as I have, um, when you had your children, you feel you had to protect them during the time that you were being abused. And so once you come out of that abusive situation, how difficult was it for you when you first came out of that abusive situation to kind of not want to be overprotective of your son because he saw you being abused. He himself
Yeah.
was there. It's not like he heard it from somebody else. What
No.
did you, mom, have to do to kind of work through that with him?
I mean, I was blessed that my current husband, I'm always blessed by him, but he would say it out loud, like at the dinner table when I was like, because of course, with his biological father, tensions would start happening. Mom would step in. Whoop, nope, hold on, kid, go to your room. Mom's stepping in. I'm taking the heat. I've got it. Nope. And so having it brought to my attention and it was not easy. Part of it was letting him have his own therapist, and his therapist was amazing. She kept me out of the loop, which was he needed that. He needed his own safe space that wasn't mom to talk about all the things. And she
Yeah.
said, "Look, if I really think something's going on, I will tell you. But he has privacy." And I was like, "Oh, no, I need to the helicopter mom. No, you have to tell me. What's he talking about his dad? And what's do you need to?" And she was like, "No." Um but I think
Wow.
over the years, I think what it's really boiled down to is learning to trust. It's really I did a great job raising this kid. I can trust myself. I can trust him. I don't have to step in if things are tense between him and his stepdad. I have raised a kid and now I get to see it. So now that I'm okay, don't say anything, let him and he will just step up. The other night at dinner, it's happened recently. He was my husband was teasing him. And we always joke and tease, but kiddo was not in the mood. And he just was like, I am not in the mood for this. I need you to stop. And I was just like, oh. And inside of me, I was like, oh, I have to. And then I went, you go. Yes. Stand up for you. Yes. Look. And I was like, and later on, I told him, I said, you should be so proud of yourself that in that moment, which was tense and you didn't feel comfortable, that you voiced, I need you to stop. And we did. And then, a few minutes later, we were laughing and stuff. But that just I had to force myself. Like at first it was like, he's
Yeah.
got it. He can cry, he can be upset. It's okay. Nobody is going to hurt him. He is not in that situation anymore. It's okay. It was challenging. And it still is sometimes, but now again, watching him step up and speak up and use his own voice and really lean into life, I'm like, okay, nope. Again, I trust. I raised a really good kid with a really good head on his shoulders. He's gonna be okay. Maybe.
Yeah.
He's gonna be okay.
When you think of him at any given moment, what is the first word that comes to your mind that would describe him?
Amazing. Absolutely. He is I would have a conversation with that kid any day of the week about anything. He's interesting and he's interested. He's just really an amazing human being.
That's powerful. That's
Yeah.
powerful. A lot of mothers I talk to that have sons, especially, they're always on edge. Like he drives me nuts. He's hard headed. He's strong willed. He doesn't listen. But I think again, it goes back to paying attention to what they are paying attention to, pay attention to their feelings, pay attention to their passions. What are they concerned about? What do they like? It goes back to when they're like 3, 4, 5 years old.
Yep.
They start telling you way back then what they like and don't like. And it's
Yep.
not a matter of being disrespectful. It's just I don't want to play with that. I have a grandson who's 4, going on 40, and he is a pickle. Like
Yep.
he sometimes I just laugh and my son is like, Mom, stop laughing. Like he's trying to discipline him and I'm laughing because he was nonverbal for the first 2.5, almost 3 years of his life.
Sure.
Now he's starting to say some words, we understand and some we don't, but he's very strong-willed. So now
Hmm.
he's got one day, even when he's talking and we can't really make out all the words, he's got the hand gestures, he's stomping his foot. He's like, and I'm laughing because it's hilarious to me that he's talking and he's so demonstrative. Like,
Yep.
but I tell my son, you have to pay attention because
Yep.
we may not understand the words, but you'll figure out what he's saying if you pay attention because he's
Yep.
over and over, and he's saying it from his heart. So we
Yep.
have to pay attention to our sons at an early age. And then I'm gonna close out in a few minutes. If anyone who's watching has any questions or comments that you'd like to share with me, feel free to type them in the comment section now. Um, as you said at the beginning, he's getting ready to, in a couple of years or so, he'll be gone. And he's living his own life. Um, feel like you will be okay with him being gone, or do you want him to live close by, or how do you think that you're going to handle that? I know we can't know exactly right, but I've
Yeah.
talked to some people like, oh, my children live like within a mile of me, or they have
Yep.
to live in the same town, something like
Yep.
that. How are you about that?
We are in an age where this is possible. Like, if I need to see my son, we just schedule it and make it happen. It's not. I want him to live his life. This is
Yes.
not. I am not raising someone to live a life I pre-prescribed for him. It's his
Well,
life, and life's going to take him places I can't even begin to imagine. And I want him to know, wherever you are in the world, I'm a phone call, a text, like whatever the technology is at the time, let's do it. Like, I'll figure it out. We'll hop in. We'll do that. And I think that that's the important thing. I mean, no, if he wants to live down the street, great. If he wants to live across the world, okay.
all right.
It's not about you got to be with me all the time.
I love it.
Yep.
So I want to close this out, but I want to, because of the relationship you have with your son and conversations that you and I have had in the past, I knew it was extremely important for me to have you to be a part of this conversation this month. As we prepare to close out, I want you to give our mothers some sound advice, right, to take from this conversation. And it's not about like telling people how to run their lives, but you have been through so much. And as my oldest son said to me when I was trying to decide whether or not I was going to do this podcast, because I had told you when I first met you, I'm like really not comfortable. And to be honest, I still am not comfortable. But I'm doing the best I can. But he said to me, he said, Mom, you have to remember this. You've been through some things
Yeah.
and you've come out on the other side. You can help people by sharing what you've been through. And that's how I feel about you. How does how can you say, well, or what would you say to a mother who may be struggling um, to build that bond between her and her son because of maybe her own personal issues whether it's abuse or mental health issues, whatever, what is something that you would say to a mother that they could work on, or they could work towards, I should say, to build
Mm.
that bond themselves and their son?
I think it really comes down to kind of we've said it throughout the show, but it's listening to them. When we found out we were pregnant, we had all these ideas about sports and girls and this and that, and like all the things that me, but you know, my 3-year-old hated getting his hands dirty, and sports were the last thing on his mind. Did we try it? Sure. Did he hate it? Yeah. Did we keep doing it? No. And I
Right.
think that that's the most important thing to keep in mind is this human being in front of you is a human being. It doesn't matter what age they are. They're a human with their own thoughts and their own, and when you allow them to share it, it enriches you as much as you enrich them. And it's that allowing. Yes, yes, you want to protect them. Yes, you want to coddle them and keep all the bad things. But if you never let anything happen to them, nothing ever happens. And who wants that? And so I think that that's what you just have to keep in mind is yes, some bad things may happen, but amazing things get to happen too. And so you
Absolutely.
just have to that's a human. It's not a dog. It's not you don't have to protect them as much as we think that we do, I think, to help them through those situations.
All right, Megan, as we prepare to leave, tell us a little bit about your podcast
Yep.
and, tell us where we can find it and listen to it. Because you have some episodes that just really blessed me. Like right at the time, I really didn't think, I was like, oh my God, I just need to. And then I look at Flow Rising. Oh, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
let me listen. And that person is saying exactly what I need to hear.
Yeah.
So tell us about your podcast.
Yeah, so it's called Flow Rising. It's you can find it on YouTube if you're into videos. Yeah, I'm on Spotify, I'm on Apple, I'm on pretty much any podcast platform if you are the auto, wanting to listen to it. We talk about healing, we talk about life after trauma, we talk about this side.
Yes.
Share stories, talk about being moms and mothers and women. Yeah, and I always tell my guests when I get to have conversations that I get just as blessed, and I hope that other people out there know that it's a show about knowing that you're not alone, and it's
Yes.
not it's not easy to choose to heal from things that nobody wants you to talk about. And there are those of us who are if you don't want to talk about it, that's great. Then listen to those who will, because we're here sharing our stories. And that's really what the show's about. It's just story sharing and healing. And yeah, it's a big blessing. I really love doing it.
And I enjoy listening to it. I was, there's such a diverse uh, type of voice that you
Yep.
have in your podcast because, I'm all about being a voice, not just having a voice, but I believe that we are a voice. And you
Yeah.
have such diversity on your podcast. And I just love it.
Yep.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy
Yeah.
schedule to join me tonight, and being a newlywed and all that good stuff.
Yep. All the things.
I'm proud of you. And I'm very happy for you. And again for taking time to be with me tonight. And we'll talk again soon, I hope.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Good night.